Okay, welcome back. We are ACI Course 10, Class 8. And before we start, I was looking at the schedule and we were going to push through Course 11 before Kyoto. And then because I'll now be helping in Malaysia, I won't be home in time to start on the scheduled date, which we needed to start in order to finish before Kyoto. So I made the executive decision to not start ACI 11 until January. So for this group, it will be evening group. It will be January 11th. So, I'll post it, but just so that you have the opportunity to, plan. I'll offer something in November. And then also there in December, there's Jetsongkhapa Day, which is December 14th. So that'd be shortly after Kyoto. We would like to do something fun and special on Jetsongkhapa Day. So, it won't be goodbye until January. But just in terms of our formal classes with homeworks, we'll be off till January 11th, this group. Okay, so now bring your attention to your breath, right? Yeah. Until you hear from me again, please. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you, gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them this paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Tayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community, through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest. May we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community, through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest. May we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community, through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest. May all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. So last class, we learned those 6 main mental afflictions. And we learned that of the 6, the 6th one has 5 versions of it. So you could make the case there being 10 main mental afflictions. And the ignorant liking, ignorant disliking, ignorant or pride, ignorance itself, doubt, and wrong view. And it's the wrong view that has the different flavors of wrong view that makes them the mental affliction. And there are 20 secondary mental afflictions as well. That does not mean they're less dangerous, less harmful. It means they're the mental afflictions that come out of these primary ones. So if we didn't have the primary, we wouldn't have the secondary that comes out of it, which means we can work on the secondaries, and it's useful to do that. But technically, until we also stop the primaries, we're really not stopping the secondaries. But they're probably the ones that are more readily identifiable, feelable, so that we can work with them more directly. And then, of course, ultimately, it's overcoming the misunderstanding of the true natures of things that is what destroys all the mental afflictions, whether they're primary or secondary or tertiary or whatever. Overcoming the ignorance, but really the ignorance that's within all of them, not just the one that's called ignorance, the mental affliction, not believing that my deeds have consequences. So much deeper than that, as we know. So let's have a look at the 20 secondary mental afflictions and then what Master Shantideva has to say to us after that, which comes from the chapter called Guarding Awareness or Carefulness. All right, so secondary mental affliction, the word is nyenyun. It's kind of a tongue twister for me, nyenyun. This is literally the secondary mental affliction, the one that comes out of the primary. And here they come. There's 20 of them. For your homework, you get to pick any 6 to write down. Geshe-la said, you might pick the 6 that are your personal favorites, meaning the ones we recognize that we get. So they seem more important than the others. Although on the other hand, it may be that the others are happening more subtly and have more influence on us than the obvious ones. So you choose whatever 6 is fine. If you're an overachiever, you can put down all 20. So here they come. Droha is the first one. Droha. It means anger. And here the anger they're talking about apparently is that first few minutes of the actual anger in that given situation. First, there's the ignorant disliking that arises, the primary mental affliction. Because of the misunderstanding, the ignorant part of the disliking, the blame factor comes up. And once the blame factor comes up, the unpleasantness we're feeling is caused by that guy, that other, human or otherwise. And then the automatic need to act or willingness to act in whatever way necessary to get the unpleasantness to stop. So what makes these mental afflictions really is the willingness to act in certain ways mistakenly because of the mistaken understanding of what's causing the feeling in the first place. Yeah? So droha is this anger, first few minutes of a situation of anger. Second one is kunzin. Kunzin, to hold kun. Kun is retaining anger. So kunzin is retaining anger. That's where somebody does something, right? Our anger comes up, the situation's all over with. And as we go on with our day, week, year, lifetime, it's like, they did that to me. They did that to me. The anger simmers. Maybe they don't even remember what it was. We're the one that's holding it. Retained anger, they call it over time. It colors our choices of behaviors towards that person, towards anybody like them, towards the situation that triggered that, right, towards all of it. Retained anger influences us. The next one is sikpa. Sikpa, the word literally means to burn. And here it means that irritation, Geshe-la called it pre-anger. No, when we're irritated, we just have this level of annoyance going on, then that alone will make us more likely to saying or doing something that's harsh or unkind. Right? So all of these mental afflictions are triggering in us some willingness to do some behavior that ends up hurting us when we get its result. We're doing an unkind behavior, but we don't recognize it as unkind necessarily because we believe it's what I should do to get the unpleasantness to stop. So even if we would say, no, I admit that it's not right to lie to the boss to get them to stop yelling at me, but it's the way that works. So I'm willing to do it. And who cares if later on it means somebody's going to lie to me to get what they want? I'll deal with that later. We don't even think it through that far for what we're talking about to be a mental affliction. It means we're willing to do something non-virtuous in response to it. When we get to the point where we have a state of mind, we have an experience, we have a state of mind, and we are unwilling to do something that could harm us or others in response to it, then we could debate, was that a mental affliction or not? If when you're arhat, you could be having your fingers and toes cut off by the jealous king and be experiencing the pain and the situation and not have the least bit willingness to hurt the king to get it to stop. So then, is all that pain a mental affliction or not? It's hard to get it right. It's something we need to cook again and again and again. How could you not blame the king? How could you not be resentful? How could you not hold some kind of harshness towards that being for what they're doing to me, right? Okay. So Drowa Gunzin, anger, retaining anger, the irritation that's even pre-anger. The next one, numparsewe. It means malice. Malice. We have it in our Bodhisattva vows. It means on one level, it means wanting something bad to happen to somebody, malice. Here, it goes so far as to be willingness to do something bad to somebody. Whether you actually ever do it or not, the willingness to do it is this mental affliction, apparently, verbally or physically, and prepared to do so if the circumstance were to come up where you could, like that. Again, you may not ever do it, but that state of mind that I would hurt the mugger before they hurt me. I would hurt the mugger before they hurt my mother. Like, that's malice. It's a secondary mental affliction. It comes out of ignorant disliking. Okay? All of these, ignorant disliking. The fifth one, traktok. Traktok means jealousy. They call it a part of anger. Seems a little bit odd. That out of some desire for our own gain or admiration or something, we can't bear the sight of somebody else getting some kind of happiness. And that thing we call jealousy arises. And all the subtle nuances of those situations comes out of some form of ignorant disliking. Interesting, right? Ignorantly disliking the other person's happiness. Do you see why it's the antithesis to a bodhisattva who claims they're in the other people happiness business? And then when somebody gets a little bit of it, we're somehow upset, jealousy. Geshe-la pointed out that this mental affliction, jealousy, is very common amongst Sangha that are together enough, close enough to be interacting together, trying to carry out projects together. Geshe-la shares that there's so much virtue happening amongst people in a Dharma center that those demons can't stand it. And their trick is to set people against each other by way of jealousy. And so he just counseled us, right? He was talking to his group in New York City, that wherever we are, whatever group we are involved in, if that group is focused on gathering goodness, probably there's going to be heads butting. And then curiously, what we saw at Diamond Mountain often is a project would need to happen, and the lamas would pick this person and that person to work together to make that project happen. And guess what? Those are the two people that most didn't get along. And they're both trying to serve the lama. And it's like, okay, get on with it. It happened again and again and again. Next one. Gyu. Gyu means insincerity or falsity. He said it's also the word for dishonesty, but not dishonesty in terms of, dishonesty towards another person. This is dishonesty with ourselves. Like we're refusing to admit or even recognize that we have certain faults. And especially when we're saying, I don't have those faults, when we do, that particularly blocks us to receiving knowledge, to receiving solutions to the problems that wrong state of mind is actually contributing towards. Because our state of mind is, I don't need that solution because I don't have that problem. And then it's like, well, do you really not see that you have the problem? Or do you know you have the problem, but you're refusing to admit it? And this insincerity, gyu, mental affliction, seems to imply, you do know you have it, but you're not going to admit it for whatever reason. So same kind of mental affliction can happen towards other, right, in some way, but mostly this mental affliction is about our own qualities, right? Denial or insincerity. There's another one where we're like outright covering up wrong deeds. This one's a little different than that, I think. So next one is yowa. Yowa, pretense. Yeah, this is the one. So pretense means you put on good qualities that you don't actually have in order for others to honor you. Now, I have to admit, when I'm with a group and I'm the lama, I have to behave, right? I have to keep my hair up all the time. I'm happy to do so. However, it's like I'm behaving better than my ordinary me, if I let them show through, actually would. I admit I'm doing it. And my motivation is because I know my role as a powerful karmic object. So I'm not faking it, but I am stepping into that role and being it for the students there. So that the outcome, if through that pretense, I'm putting on, I know more than you, so that I could put you down when I felt like it, right? I could take advantage of you. That if that's how pretense is making my mind react, then we've got a mental affliction. Right? So it's not the feeling or the state of mind itself that's the mental affliction. It's how it influences us in our behavior that makes it the mental affliction. Right? When we get to Diamond Way, you're supposed to put on pretense. Right? And the better you do it, the better you get. And the more kind you get, and the more amazing you get, right? And then it plants the seeds for really being that in the end. But it's so easy to fool ourselves. Right? And that's why they call it pretense, right? We know we're doing it, but then we use it to let ourselves do things that we justify as right when they're going to hurt us, and others when they come back to us. Yoa, pretense. The scripture gives us a story. There was this practitioner who he let his altar be sloppy and dirty generally. And then he heard that one of his supporters was going to come visit him, and he thought, oh my gosh, I need to clean my altar. So he cleaned it all up, made it really beautiful. And then before the sponsor got there, he thought to himself, wait a minute, that's hypocrisy. I shouldn't have just cleaned my altar because my sponsor's coming. So he threw dirt all over it. Like it looked worse than just being dusty. And they say far away, some high level practitioner who had clairvoyance saw the guy do it. And that person commented, wow, a huge virtue was just done when the guy threw dirt on his altar. Because he recognized his hypocrisy, not because he threw dirt on the altar. Right? He recognized his hypocrisy and cut it. Number 8. Notsa mepa. Notsa mepa. Anybody remember the word notsa? Notsa trelyu. Notsa is technically the word for shame, but shame in the sense of this healthy self-respect and self-conscience through which we will avoid doing some kind of wrong deed, even if nobody ever heard about it. If we were the only one who ever knew, this sense of shame would keep us from doing it because we're better than that. I'm better than that, right? So we usually think of shame as a unpleasant state of mind, right? I'm so ashamed I don't want anybody to see. This is a healthy state of, yeah, right, I don't want anybody to see that, so I am not going to do it regardless of anybody seeing it or not. Shame. No tsamepa means no shame, right? The secondary mental affliction of having no sense of avoiding a wrong deed regardless if anybody sees it. Right? No high level of self-respect, high level of self-conscientiousness. Maybe conscientious is a better word. It's a secondary mental affliction to not have this healthy sense of shame, right? I don't like to use that word, self-conscientiousness. Then you know what's coming next. Drao mepa. Drao is the drao yu, which is consideration. That state of mind that will help us refrain from doing an unkind deed because of its impact on others. And on one level, they say, well, because of what others will think of you. That's one level that stops us from doing something mean, right? I'm not going to say that mean thing to the boss because my team member is going to hear it. And they'll think less of me as a result. But it goes also deeper to be, I'm not going to be mean to the boss because the influence on the team member will say, well, it's okay to be mean to people because I, the leader of the group, did it. Right. And then I'm not caring so much what my teammate thinks of me. I'm caring that they would repeat my behavior. I'm caring about what my deeds, how it impacts them. That's Trelia. And using that to help me decide how I'm going to behave when other beings will know about it. To not have that consideration. So Trail Mepa is inconsideration, no consideration for how my deeds impact those who are witnessing it. Not so much how it impacts the other involved, but those who are impacted by becoming aware that I did it. It's dangerous because it will go on to lead people to lose faith. So worse would be if your coworker knows you're a Buddhist, aspiring Bodhisattva, and then they hear you, rip the boss a new one. They're going to go, well, that's how Bodhisattvas act. I don't think I want any piece of it. Okay. According to the Abhidharma Kosha, one of these two, either the Notsa Mepa or the Drao Mepa, have to be present in the case of doing any non-virtue. Like when we don't have enough spiritual self-esteem or concern for others to avoid a negative deed, we are influenced by either Nodsa Mepa or Drao Mepa. So it's not just not having shame or not having consideration. It's the active opposite. I'm willing to hurt somebody even if nobody knows. I don't care if anybody knows. I'm willing to do that deed. It's right. It's right to do. Okay? Out of whatever primary mental affliction is pushing it. All right, who comes next? Chapa. Chapa means cover up. This one's hiding our faults. Geshe-la says, don't bother people know. But worse, the karma grows. So hiding our faults just worsen the consequences of the fault that we're hiding. Admit our wrongs quickly is like the refrain here. Recognize we did something that's going to come back to hurt us, have regret. 4 powers if you have time. You've already done 2 of them by recognizing, oh, that's going to come back to hurt me. That's refuge, right? Regret, or that's regret. Refuge is just the fact that I regret it means I understand the process. we don't have to run to somebody necessarily to admit our fault quickly. We admit it to our own mind. You've always got your holy being there in your heart. You can admit it to them too. They know already, but can be helpful. Next one, serna. Serna means stinginess. It means my things are for me and I want to keep them so that when I want them or need them, I'll have them. So I won't share them when I have an opportunity to or somebody really needs them. There, no. Next one, gyakpa. It means conceited. It's apparently also the word for fat. So we're conceited, like we're all puffed up about ourselves. Stuck up with our own good qualities, which we'd only be stuck up about them if we thought they were qualities in me, from me, that I'm always going to have, which of course is mistaken. Probably being conceited about our good qualities is one of those factors in losing them. Gyakpa. Next one, Madepa. I'm not sure if there's a prenasal in here or not. If there was, it would be Mandepa versus Madepa, and I'm just not sure. It means lack of faith. Depa means faith. And so they say this Madepa is lack of admiration. They also call it a kind of laziness, in the sense of not going to the trouble to decide whether a being or a place or a circumstance or a teaching has admirable qualities. If we lack faith towards a given teacher, they become a not so powerful object for us. And we know, right, their powerful karmic or their good qualities are not in them. So everybody could see them with these good qualities and I don't. Or nobody could see them with these good qualities and I do. And everywhere in between. So how this one quite gets us, I'm not so sure. It implies there's some being that everybody agrees is a holy being. And my lack of faith towards them makes me discount them. If that state of mind makes it such that I'm willing to put them down, criticize them, try to influence the minds of others to agree with me, then it's a mental affliction. Right? Doesn't mean we have to admire everybody else admires, or else we have this mental affliction. It's the loss of faith, right, that colors our behavior. Next one, lelo, is the laziness. Here, that spiritual laziness, lack of enjoying doing good things, not just lacking doing good things, lack of the enjoyment in doing good things, this mental affliction. If we don't enjoy doing good things, we're not gonna make the effort to be doing the virtuous things with the frequency or power that we understand they need. We'll end up wasting time. So lay low in the end makes us waste time, they say. Not meaning don't ever rest, but get rested and then get back to having your Dharma mentality with what you're doing. All right, next one. Bakmepa. Bakmepa means carelessness, letting ourselves get careless in our behavior choice making. And the best example of that they give is, when we drink alcohol, the alcohol influences our mind and our ignorance gets stronger. And so then our choices of behavior get more ignorant, more selfish, and we get careless with our behavior, right? You get drunk, you're less likely to be able to keep your vows. There are other circumstances when we get careless, right? When we're sick, we don't feel good. When we're, distracted with our worldly life, where things are getting like too much to do, too little time. All of those circumstances will lead us to be careless. So will a dance party, right? Loud music, that can lead us to be careless too. It can also be part of our practice as an offering, etc. But like when we get those headphones on and get zoned into the music that we're willing to turn to somebody and snap at them because they interrupted us, we've gotten careless. Okay. Next one, Jene. Jene. It means forgetfulness. Forgetfulness, similar to in meditation when we're on the object, and suddenly, like we've lost it completely. We're thinking about the meeting coming up and how I'm going to do what I do at my meeting. I've completely lost my object. That's forgetting the object. Here it means the mental affliction of forgetting the commitment we made, right, to choose our behavior carefully. And specifically, for instance, if we have a practice where you get up in the morning and it's like, today I'm going to work really, really hard on not snapping back, right? When this happens, something that's going to, happen all day long. And you're committed, I'm going to work really hard on that mental affliction. And then 2 hours go by, the circumstance happens, you just let fly and right? I just forgot. And it can go on and on and on before we remember that we forgot. And that's this forgetting is the mental affliction. Next one. Sheishin Maimpa. We recognize Sheishin, that term awareness, that is the awareness that watches during meditation to alert us that our quality of meditation has deteriorated a little bit, to remind us to check for dullness or agitation and correct. Sheishin doesn't do the correcting, we do, but it's what did Geshe call it? The smoke alarm. Sheishin Mayimpa means to lose that smoke alarm, to lose the watchfulness. In not meditation, in our outside life, this losing watchfulness means that you've lost that part of you that's on alert for any other mental affliction coming up, from which you want to stop the automatic response or delay it long enough to choose a different response. It takes this really healthy Sheishin to buy us the time between boss yelling and our reaction to choose a different reaction. So when we have that Sheishin strong, we're consciously, I'll do this next, I'll do this to that, I'll do that that way, I'll do this way. We need that to be keeping our vows. We need that to be training ourselves in the behavior which is the opposite of the vows, which is really how we keep our vows. Don't just avoid, don't just avoid killing, actively protect life. So it takes Sheishin to do that. Losing Sheishin, right? We get back on the automatic pilot, and out comes the nasty words or the wrong reaction. Geshe called it vigilance, losing our vigilance about our behavior. Next one, mukpa. Mukpa means that fogginess or dullness of either body or mind. Foggy body is when you're just so tired, right? You can hardly stay upright. And mukpa of mind is that brain fog. You just can't think clearly. And it comes as a result of not taking good care of ourselves, not getting enough sleep, not eating according to what our unique body really needs, making these choices to feed what I want instead of what's really needed. We know things that we do that make us overtired, over stupid. It's mental affliction to have that state, and it's mental afflictions to let ourselves get into that state. And modern society is such that my guess is most of us have overworked and underslept and have that state even before we met the Dharma. So it's a matter of really going back and using our seed system to help somebody else recover from that overwork, but also using that to show by example, no, it's important to get sleep. And even if, the Holy Lama comes up with another project, I'm so sorry, I can't do that right now. This body, this mind needs sleep. I'm happy to start it tomorrow after 1 o'clock, after I get up, rested, do my sit, do my homework. I will get to your project, Holy Lama. Truly, right? That Lama will say, no, it has to be done now to test us. I understand, Holy One. I will get it done for you, but not until after 1 o'clock tomorrow, right? Truly, our priorities are important. Next one. Nam yen. We're getting down here at the bottom. Let me get it up. Nam yen. Nam yen means distraction towards pleasant objects. Seems like a pretty impossible one to overcome. It comes from wanting things ignorantly, however. So as our wanting things ignorantly becomes wanting things wisely, then this nam yang really will go away. Eventually, they promise us. Next one, gupa, 20th, right? The 20th, gupa. Gupa means scattering, same as in the meditation levels. Gupa is your mind, monkey mind, all over the place. Oh. Unable to keep our mind focused on a single point, even out of meditation. Just constantly distracted. They say even if the object that we're trying to focus on is virtuous, and maybe worse if the object we're trying to focus on is virtuous and we can't hold ourselves on it. It's a mental affliction to be on the object then off, on the object then off. And it's like, oh, that sounds dangerous to say, because that means even when I'm trying to meditate and I've got my virtuous object, I'm like making bad karma because my mind won't stay on the virtuous object. I'm having a mental affliction in meditation. They say you don't. Uh, I've had mental afflictions in meditation. Anyway, gupa, the inability to concentrate. Curiously, however, as we progress on the path, we actually grow our ability to multitask increases. Like you, Buddha, omniscient, you emanating, you are ultimately multitasking, right? You are being everything for everybody. So why would it be wrong to learn to multitask well as human me? Why is that going to be an obstacle? Wouldn't you would think that we would train in multitasking instead of train in single pointed focus. But those Buddhas are single pointed focused on everything that they are experiencing. So their multitasking is single pointed. Focus multitasking sounds like an oxymoron. So when we can, here's my task at hand until the task is done, and then until the task is done. When this task has 6 different things going on within it, we can be just as focused on all 6. Not until we can focus on one, however, can we focus on all 6. So the way we do it, I don't know about you, but me, it's like, and then my mind's so good at it, thinking I'm good at it, that then it never stops doing it. And then it does it in meditation too. And that means the ability to focus in on the circumstance long enough to choose a different reaction. It's gone like this, which means my automatic pilot has probably kicked up by the time I get back around to making that decision. So that's gupa, state of mind of gupa. So now in the reading, Geshe gives us this verse from Master Shanti Deva, I believe, versus Gyaltsab Drake, that is about hating our mental afflictions and getting attached to our efforts to destroy them. And they use those words, hate your mental afflictions and be attached to destroying them. And Master Shanti Deva must know that in his audience, somebody would be saying, wait a minute, Master Shanti Deva. Hate is a mental affliction. Attachment's a mental affliction. How can you cultivate mental afflictions to get rid of mental afflictions? So he gives us this verse, like he anticipates his audience, and he says, I should therefore never turn back, even for a single moment, from the task of destroying the mental affliction. I should get attached to them, meaning their antidotes. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to put the parenthesis in it. I should get attached to their antidotes and learn to hate and make war on these kinds of mental afflictions. I will act to destroy those mental afflictions right? Act to destroy the mental afflictions. And so these are not mental afflictions. So it sounds like a riddle. Like, what's he talking about here? The commentary from Gyaltsab J, he explains it a little bit for us. He says, we've already learned that to make friends with our mental afflictions, they will take advantage of us. We can't give them an inch because they'll take a mile. So we're declaring this battle against our mental afflictions. And they're not going to be an enemy that just lays over and surrenders, right, with the white flag. They are going to fight back. And their fight back is going to wound us, injure us, be hard for us. And a warrior gets more wrathful if they get hurt versus a sissy, you know, that cuts their finger and passes out in a dead faint. So we need to take this warrior stance against these mental afflictions, get the upper hand. And for a warrior to be an effective warrior, they need to recognize their enemy. We talked about that before. And they need to hate that enemy to be willing to do what a warrior needs to do to an enemy, right? I mean, in war, if your enemy is your best friend, you're going to hesitate. Isn't that what's the book? The yoga book about Arjuna and Krishna. Those are my cousins out there. You want me to kill my cousins? I can't do it. If I don't hate my enemies, I can't kill them. Now, we're all over not killing anybody for any reason. But these mental afflictions, they're the things that make us willing to kill something like the bug that's in the kitchen. So we need this forceful hatred of mental afflictions in order to have the force of the power to not react from them. And the harder we try, the stronger they'll try to get us to react in our usual way. And the stronger we need to come out against them. And so they use this term, hate your mental afflictions. Be attached to stopping them, meaning don't give an inch. When we fail, which we will, all right, 4 powers, get back at it. Be so attached to the opposite behaviors, right, that we're clinging to not yelling back at the yelling boss. We're grasping to that so hard so that we can actually apply the antidote when the time comes. He makes that case, and Gyaltsab J says, well, okay, so you have these two, hatred and grasping, clinging, and you finally get rid of all those other 84,000 mental afflictions, and you've just built 2 more. Don't you have to now work to get rid of those? Like, haven't you built 2 really powerful mental afflictions? Hating my mental affliction and clinging to their antidotes? Like, how can that work? Given karma and emptiness, how could we stop all mental afflictions by cultivating 2 more? Can't work. So there must be something we are misunderstanding. And not just the semantics, not just the word. But Gyaltsab J explains that those 2 mental afflictions aren't actually mental afflictions because they are 2 states of mind that we are cultivating for our path, on our path. So it's 2 virtuous states of mind that are helping us move along our path because they are helping us put a stop to the mental afflictions that are obstacles to our path. And once the last mental affliction has been destroyed, the last seed for the last mental affliction has been sufficiently destroyed that no more mental afflictions can ripen, then the need for the hatred of mental afflictions and the grasping attachment to the antidotes, there's no need. So that state of mind disappears. It disappears with the need. We don't have to then act to get rid of those last two mental afflictions because they actually were never mental afflictions to begin with. They were virtues that we used on the path. Also, a deeper teaching. How can hatred be both a mental affliction and a virtue? Right? Something to cook so that we don't get it wrong. And then say, oh, yeah, so I can get angry someday at somebody and it'll be a virtue. No. Okay. You can get angry at your mental affliction, but not the other who's involved in that mental affliction. All right, let's take our break. So next, what do you think? Can we really get rid of all these mental afflictions once and for all? We've pointed out the 6 main ones, of which there are really 10, and then 20 that come out of those 10, so let's call them 30. And just that list seems like they happen to us so quickly that it seems almost impossible to work with them. And then there's 83,870 more that maybe don't even have names necessarily. How are we really going to get ahead of all of those? And how do we know they're not like a physical enemy where the war finally ends and everybody goes back home and the enemy just regroups and comes back to get you again? Maybe looking differently this time. How come our mental afflictions don't do the same? How do we know for sure that we can stop them once and for all? So Master Shanti Davis says, think about it. All these mental afflictions, all 84,000 of them, come out of ignorance. What do we mean by ignorance? Seeing things as self-existent, experiencing things as self-existent, believing in things as self-existent. What do we mean by self-existent? Highest school means we see them, experience them, believe in them as being independent of our own mind's unique projection of them, forced upon us as ripening results of our own past deeds. Projections forced by karma. Right? So if we were to go through this sequence, what do we mean by ignorant? Perceiving things as self-existent. What do we mean as self-existent? Believing things have their own natures, not merely my projections forced by karma. What do you mean by your projections forced by karma? Right? Then you have to keep breaking it down to get our understanding correctly. That's the 18 ACI courses. What we mean by this, what we mean by that. So technically, all 84,000 mental afflictions come out of this misinterpretation of our experience, our me and my world. So all we have to do is cut this misperception. And then all of those 84,000 mental afflictions will wither. It doesn't happen immediately upon the experience of cutting your ignorance. However, as we understand, once we're Arya, we're no longer replanting ignorance. It's still ripening. We don't believe, so it's not replanted. That means any mental affliction that arises as a result of a circumstance also is experienced in the old way and not believed as what I should do, or what the feeling, right? The feeling is hatred. No, it's a feeling. What I should do is yell back. No, don't believe it. What should I do? Maybe yell back is appropriate. Maybe not. We have this awareness of the illusion, the awareness of the discrepancy between our experience and how we know things are truly existing, but can't see it that way anymore. So as we apply our newfound wisdom from having direct perception of emptiness, We are burning off that great mistake, the remnants of it from before. And that's all in karmic seeds, and there will be a last karmic seed that still has full-on ignorance in it, won't there? And when that one is either damaged enough that it can't go off, or ripened and not replanted, where else can those mental afflictions be hanging out? If we've cleared them out of our mind, which means we've cleared them out of our karma, is it possible that that mental affliction could hang out someplace else, like the mental affliction of ignorance, that it could regroup and come back somewhere else? Master Shanti Deva says, let's check it out. Where can an existing thing be found in our experience? Things are either mental things or material things. And of the material things, they are either sense power things or the mental thing, which is the identity of what the sense power, how the sense power thing stuff is interpreted. So there's really only three places a mental affliction can be waiting for us to get us: in the outer objects, outer world, in the sense powers, meaning our optic nerve, our auditory nerve, right? Or in our mind. And we've just said, once I've eliminated it from in my mind, is it possible that it can be still somewhere else, that it could come back and get me? That's the question. So Master Shantideva says, well, let's check. Is there a way that we can show ourselves whether or not it's possible for a mental affliction to be in an outer object or in the sense power? So he gives us these three statements. Suksoyul lamine. Lamine means it does not stay there, or it can't stay there. Lamine. Suk means form. Yul means object. So sok is the stay part. Suksoyul lamine. We're talking about the mental affliction, primarily ignorance, but any of them. It says they cannot stay in the outer object. How did he come to that conclusion? He said, consider an arhat. What do we mean by arhat? Somebody who has stopped all mental afflictions and their seeds for more by way of their individual analysis. What was their individual analysis? They perceived emptiness directly and went on to train themselves in how to live according to what they now know to be true. They went through the stages of their path of habituation. Does an arhat still perceive outer objects? Do they perceive colors and shapes? Yes. Are they capable of having a mental affliction? No, that's by definition, right? Incapable of mental affliction. Well, if a mental affliction could be hanging out in the tree next door, and the arhat could experience that tree next door, then they could be attacked by the mental affliction in the tree, by their experiencing the tree. And then that means they're not arhat. So no, mental afflictions cannot go hang out in some outer object because there are arhats, is the rationale. Okay, we'll cook that one. What about in the interaction between arhat and object? Could the mental affliction be in the eye power, ear power, nose power, taste power, touch power, thought power? Miksok wangpo lamine. Miksok means I, etc. Wangpo, I power, etc. Meaning those 5 or 6 sensory powers. Can the mental affliction hide in the sense power itself? How would we establish the fact that it cannot hang out in the eye power and wait to get us again? Master Shantideva offers that someone who's in the direct perception of emptiness, he actually says focusing on emptiness, but it means focusing on it so clearly that they are deeply absorbed in it. That person, they have an optic nerve. They still have an auditory nerve. They still have their Mik Sok Wangpos. But in their direct perception of emptiness, they are immersed in the absence of self-nature of all existing things. They still have their Wangpos, but they can't have a mental affliction because they're in the absence. They're in ultimate reality. If there was a mental affliction hanging out in that eye power that the direct perception of emptiness perceiver is having, then they could have a mental affliction while they are in the direct perception of emptiness because they still have their eye power. Yeah? I'm not sure that's convincing. So cook it. Then bar la mine mean the bar means the in-between. La mine, they're not staying in between, meaning there's no other place that mental afflictions can be. The only possible place for an existing thing is physical things, mental things, and the interaction between them, which is the sense powers. And if we prove they can't be in that one and they can't be in that one, and we've already said they're not here in the mental one, there's nowhere else they can be. Parlamine. So yes, we can completely get rid of those mental afflictions and they won't go hang out someplace else to come back and get us later. So how do we do that? What behavior do we train ourselves in to replace our old non-virtuous automatic reactions that's been pushed by our misunderstanding of where things come from? Guess what? The 6 perfections. We train in the 6 perfections as the replacement automatic behaviors that used to be the automatic mental affliction behaviors. We train in our 6 perfections. So the perfection is baro tu chimpa. Paro means the other side. Paro tu is gone to the other side. Paro tu chimpa is actually went to the other side. Already done it. Paro tu chimpa. Paramita in the Sanskrit. Gone to the other side, like the Dharma chicken. But there's another term, paro tu chinche. Paro tu chinche means, the chinche means takes you there. Chimpa, gone, done it. Chinche gets us across, gets us to the other shore. Geshe translates it as perfectionizer. So paro tu chimpa, paramita, is the perfections, the perfection. Paro tu chinche is the perfectionizer, what we use to become paro tu chimpa. Why are they called perfections? Because we will do these activities perfectly someday, right? When we are Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanating, our perfections will be perfect, right? Those behaviors will be what we do, spontaneous, automatic, right? Effortless, because we've trained ourselves in them, because we've planted our merit in that way. That's what's going to be our results, right? Merit, result, of these behaviors. What behaviors? The Bodhisattva behaviors: giving, moral discipline, not getting angry, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. I mean, weren't we thinking, this is what I do to become Buddha? And then when I'm Buddha, right, I don't have to keep doing them because I did them to become Buddha. And it's like, no, right? When we become Buddha, we start our career. We don't end our training, we start our career. We keep doing those things. They're like oozing out of us. They make us up. It's just an interesting way to think about yourself as Buddha you. You'll be made up of these behaviors. So here there are those 6 perfections in their Tibetan. Jimpa. It does mean giving. Geshe-la's calling it sharing now, which is really useful. And technically it means giving. The willingness to give. What? Material things, money, food, shelter, clothing, cars, travel, right? Whatever is needed, helpful, necessary, right? A lot of criteria. Safety, giving protection, giving love, giving the Dharma. And so have we not perfected our giving until we ourselves have nothing? Because we've given it all away, and that's proof that we've perfected our giving? It's like, no. Technically, before you can have given everything away, more would have come back to you. So you would never actually finish giving away. But wait, if there are Buddhas, then haven't they perfected giving? That's like what we said is the definition of the perfection, is it's perfect in a Buddha. But there's still needy people in the world. So it can't be that what determines our perfection of giving is that any need is gone. The perfection of giving is the willingness to give. Oh, well, then that means I can be willing to give, but I never actually have to do it. So hooray, right? I can stay perfectly comfortable and just say I'm willing to give. But no, that doesn't quite work either. The the willingness activates into a wanting to give. And there just isn't always the circumstance or opportunity until we're Buddhas to be giving at the same level that we'd like to give. And so it's a quality of motivation and heart and intention through which our giving becomes a perfectionizer giving, through which it will go on to grow our goodness so that we'll grow into full wisdom that will make the giving, right, a cause for our Buddhahood, which is where our giving becomes the actual perfected giving, which, right, where our training in that behavior happens on our path of habituation as a bodhisattva. Okay, so perfection of giving, Sultram, the ethical life, meaning avoiding the 10 non-virtues, training in the 10 virtues, keeping all our vows, which basically are about how to avoid the 10 non-virtues and train in their opposite. Supa means patience, more precisely, as we know, not getting angry when the circumstance triggers it. Sindru, joyous effort, having fun, doing our giving, our moral disciplining, our not getting angry when things are getting unpleasant, right? Having a good time. Samten, the ability to concentrate, single-pointed focus, so that we can meditate deeply enough so that we can intellectually understand emptiness better, so that we can improve the power of our giving moral discipline, not getting angry, joyous effort, so that our meditation will go deeper, so that we can drive ourselves to the direct perception of emptiness. Sharam, the wisdom. So our sharab is growing as we understand this marriage of karma and emptiness. Emptiness understanding alone is really useless without it being tied to my behavior. So it takes both of those together for it to be wisdom. And then technically for it to be real wisdom, let's call it wisdom with a capital W, requires the direct perception of emptiness. Okay? But we are growing our sharab as we study, as we practice, as we keep our book. Because without understanding something about emptiness and karma, we wouldn't bother to do all these things, right? So be happy with yourself. Pat yourself on the back, right? Your sharab is growing. Okay. So these are the activities that create the karmic energy to reach our total enlightenment. Technically, even in this lifetime, if we do them powerfully enough. So if that's our goal, reaching total Buddhahood this lifetime or not, then these behaviors would become our priority, our training priority, right? Our reaction to situations priority. And then it doesn't matter what our outer circumstance is. We could be a stockbroker, a teacher, a lawyer, a grocery store clerk, right? A mom at home. And we have everything that we need to train ourselves in these 6 perfections, right? We don't have to ditch life and go live in a Dharma center or under a bridge. We do it in the circumstances that we have. Our career, our real career, says Geshe Michael, is to perfect these behaviors, to use our circumstances to increase our giving, moral discipline, not getting angry, having a good time, so that our meditative concentration goes deeper, so our wisdom goes deeper. Geshe-la says that as we're training in these behaviors, the perfection is the willingness to give, and that willingness to give expresses itself in our behavior. And then in practicing those new behaviors, our task is to push ourselves beyond what is automatic, beyond what's easy, but not to push ourselves so far that we would have regret. So we can hear a teaching like this and it's like, oh man, I want to give everything I own to Diamond Mountain, and I'll just go live out of my backpack and just give everything that comes to me. And don't try it, because within a week, right, the first rainstorm comes and it's like, why did I give my house away? Right? This is awful. And it sets us back to have regret. On the other hand, it's like, yeah, I can give $1 to the guy. But when I stick my hand in the wallet and the first thing that comes out is a 20, it's like, no, right? Where's the 5? Whereas if I were pushing myself, I'd go, okay, the first thing my hand grabs in my wallet is what I'm going to give the guy. Right? That would be pushing my envelope a little bit. And I actually started really slowly. I just couldn't give them money. And I had this beautiful garden. I had all these little tomatoes, little cherry tomatoes. And so I took a baggie of them, a big baggie of them. And there's the guy, I expected him. And so I stopped and I handed them to him. And I thought he'd open it up and just gobble down a handful of these little tomatoes. But his face lit up and he goes, wow, the guys at the camp will love these. Like, I was so humbled, right? Because he's going to go share them with his other homeless people. He's not going to hog them like I was hogging them. And that episode allowed me to then be able to give money to those guys. It changed my view of them. And then I can still push myself a little bit more. Now and then I can stop and get one, a lunch, and give them lunch instead of money. And right, I was able to push myself a bit, but it took that humbling, right? I really did. I myself felt a bit humiliated at my own arrogance, thinking I was doing him such a favor. So all of these changes in behavior, they are done in the privacy of your own mind and heart. But then we're responsible for making the efforts to push, but not push too hard. Find that middle way, the middle ground. And it becomes really a beautiful way of life to have this very clear criteria of how to respond to others in my day, right? By way of giving moral discipline, not getting angry, and joyous effort. And having the awareness, constant awareness of my impact on others, my samten, so that my wisdom can grow. Right? It's really not so hard. Right? Look at your 10 non-virtues, flip them over into the positive. Train ourselves in the positive, we won't get close to the negative. Technically, same with our Bodhisattva vows. You know, that they're all stated, I will avoid this, I will avoid that. So that every moment we are avoiding them, we're keeping the vow. But then in terms of how to really train myself in the behavior, I flipped them over into the positive. And I said, oh, this is how I want to be, right? I want to praise other teachers. I want to praise the Dharma. I went through the 18. And it's like, I'll train myself in being like that, as opposed to training myself to avoiding something that only comes up every now and then. Do you see? The scripture doesn't say, turn them around and vow to behave like that, because then we break the vow every time we're not doing that, which is maybe more than we would like to admit. But when we give ourselves that message, I just find it so much easier to train myself in this new behavior than it is to train myself newly by avoiding something that only happens now and then. Okay. So we will go on to perfect our perfections. And there will still be needy people in the world. There will still be people that get hurt. People have their own karma. There are external objects forced by our projection to be external objects with their own karma. And so they are, and they have that karma. And our love for them is designed to help them wake up to their own karma as well. Whether they do or not, right? How they respond to our help, that's also our karma, but it's also theirs. We have all of that to deal with. We cannot change somebody else's karma. I hear often the question, how can I get my husband to be interested in this path? You can't. Don't bother. Show by example. That's all we can do. Okay. All right. I'm done a little bit early. I'm surprised. I thought that would be a really long, extra long class. So I get a few more minutes back in the bank. Hooray. 7:41. 15, 16, 42, 17, 18. Okay. Got it. So any questions? Yeah, we're good. Yeah, I know. You guys know all this. So remember that being that we want to be able to help. We got clear insight into how we really will go on to help them in that deep and ultimate way. Truly someday, long time from now. But how what we did tonight has set that in motion. And they are actually already benefiting. So what an amazing goodness that is. Please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your devotion to them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom. And may it be so. All right. Thank you again so much for the opportunity to share.